We are traveling the world right now. We're going to go to Mexico City, to Laura Carlsen. Laura Carlsen is the director of the Mexico City-based America's Policy Program at the Center for International Policy. Can you talk about the response in Mexico and talk about the significance of Barack Obama for Latin America, Laura Carlsen? At the top of the show, we played a response by President Chavez of Venezuela, who is congratulating Barack Obama.
Good morning, Amy. Yes, I've heard many U.S. pundits say that the election of Barack Obama doesn't change the U.S. image in the world overnight. But actually, and certainly in the case of Latin America, it has. The first and most obvious reason is that much is being made of the fact that the nation was able to break through enormous racial barriers to elect an African-American president. And that's major in countries that are also struggling with diversity and discrimination. Of course, many are still skeptical about how much change there will actually be under Barack Obama. But the fact that the U.S. political system showed this kind of capacity for change and this level of citizen participation that was really not thought possible after the two Bush elections has made a big impression on people. One of the most important things that they see coming out of this is that Barack Obama is not George Bush or his ilk. George Bush, of course, had one of the lowest approval ratings in Latin America in history. And there's a lot of hope, despite many of the caveats that we've heard from the other speakers, that there will be a change of policies from the George Bush policy of unilateralism and U.S. hegemony in the region. These policies, if they haven't been exactly interventionist in the Latin America region, have consisted of bullying to accept Washington positions, particularly on economic models and on U.S. foreign policy, and also methods of economic and diplomatic isolation for any country that didn't comply with Washington's conservative social policies or its orthodox neoliberal economic policies. There's been a tremendous inflexibility and unwillingness to enter into real dialogue with nations in Latin America, and that's caused a lot of resentment. Now, with Obama's statements that he will enter into dialogue with Venezuela and Cuba, some indication that there'll be a modification of free trade policies, there's a lot of hope that a new era can begin in U.S.-Latin American relationships.
What about the situation with the expanding drug war in Mexico and what you would expect from an Obama presidency?
This is the point of most concern, militarization, in particularly within the hemisphere. And here is where Obama's policies have shown little change from the Bush administration that launched the drug war here or supported it, because it was actually launched by President Calderon in Mexico and has supported it also in Plan Colombia. Those policies in the Latin America platform plan an expansion of that, and here in Mexico, the violence that has resulted from this model of enforcement and interdiction under Plan Mexico is appalling, and it's growing on a daily basis, now hitting high members of government as well as many citizens caught in the crossfire between this war model of the state versus the drug cartels. So one of the things that people will be looking very closely at here in Mexico is if there is any change in this. We know that this is a model that doesn't work. There's a lot of evidence of that. And so hopefully the hope is that with people in the United States pushing towards some modifications in that and a less militarized package of aid to Mexico, there could be some change there.
Laura Carlsen, with the latest news of the number 2 man for Calderon dying in the plane crash on U.S. Election Day on Tuesday, killing Mexico's Interior Minister, Juan Camilo Moreno.
Yes, this, of course, is one of the most shocking pieces of news to come out in recent days. The government's calling it an accident, but as more and more investigation comes out, there were no emergency reports from this plane before it went down, apparently, according to the press. And so, of course, there's an investigation being made, and there's a lot of rumors going around and a lot of confusion and suspicions within the populace that this was, in fact, not an accident. And that would mean that the ante's been upped to an enormous level in this war between the drug cartels, if it should result that they're involved in this and the government, and that a complete rethinking has to be made before the country disintegrates into a level of violence that it hasn't known since war.